The Drachnid Empire's arrival in Earth's solar system was meant to be nothing more than a formality. Their massive warships, each the size of a small moon, emerged from hyperspace in a carefully choreographed display of power. The lead vessel's hull bore the scars of 1,000 conquered civilizations, its very presence a testament to their inexorable march across the galaxy. Humanity had been watched for decades. The Drachnids had seen Earth's first tentative steps into space, observed their petty conflicts, and noted their technological progression with mild amusement. Like countless species before them, humans would be given a choice: submit to imperial authority or face extinction. It was a choice that, in the Empire's experience, was no choice at all. Admiral Karax stood on the bridge of the Imperial flagship, his scaled hands clasped behind his back as he studied the blue-green planet below. Earth's orbital defense platforms seemed almost primitive compared to Drachnid technology, their weapon systems barely worth acknowledging. This would be his 10,000th conquest, a milestone that would earn him a place in the Imperial Hall of Dominion. "Send the standard ultimatum," Karax ordered, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of tradition. "Give them the customary solar rotation to respond." The message was broadcast simultaneously in every human language, appearing on every screen and device across the planet. It was brief, as Imperial ultimatums always were. Submit to Imperial authority within 24 hours, or face immediate eradication. The response, when it came, was not what anyone in the Empire had expected. It arrived not as a formal diplomatic transmission, but as a simple text message, broadcast on all frequencies. No. Karax blinked his primary eyes in confusion. In 10,000 conquests, no species had ever responded with such brevity. Usually there were pleading negotiations, desperate attempts at bargaining, or at least questions about the terms of submission. "Confirm translation," he ordered, certain there must be some mistake. "Confirmed, Admiral." The message reads the same in all languages. No. Before Karax could process this unprecedented response, his tactical officer called out in alarm. The supposedly primitive orbital platforms were changing. Panels were sliding away, revealing weapon systems far more advanced than anything their scouts had reported. Earth's entire defensive network was transforming before their eyes. But it was what happened next that truly shocked the Empire. From behind Earth's moon emerged a fleet of ships that hadn't been there moments before. Human vessels, yes, but nothing like the crude spacecraft the Empire had observed. These ships were sleek, purpose-built warships that bore no resemblance to their civilian vessels. "Impossible," Karax whispered. "They couldn't have hidden this level of technology from our observers." A new transmission arrived from Earth, this time with video. The human who appeared on screen wore no military uniform or formal attire, but simple civilian clothes. Their expression was not one of fear or defiance, but of calm certainty. "For centuries, humanity has debated whether we were alone in the universe," the speaker began. "When we finally detected your empire's expansion toward our sector, we had our answer. We saw what happened to other civilizations who stood alone against you. So we prepared. What you've observed of Earth has been carefully crafted theater, a performance for your benefit." The speaker paused, allowing their words to sink in. "You see, Admiral, humanity has a long history of facing empires who believed their power made them invincible. We've learned that the most dangerous opponent is the one you underestimate. You came here expecting to find another primitive species to add to your collection. Instead, you've found humanity at its most dangerous, united, prepared, and unwilling to bow." As if to emphasize this point, the human fleet began moving into attack formation with a precision that spoke of years of training. Earth's transformed defense platforms locked onto the Imperial vessels with targeting systems far more sophisticated than anything the Empire had encountered before. "We are giving you a choice, Admiral," the human continued. "You can retreat, return to your empire, and inform them that Earth is not to be trifled with. Or you can test your assumptions about human capability. The choice, as you're fond of saying, is yours." You have 1 hour to decide. Karax felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries: uncertainty. The humans had not only hidden their true capabilities, but had turned the Empire's own psychological warfare against them. They had allowed themselves to be observed, crafting a false image of vulnerability while preparing for this very moment. As he studied the human fleet's formation, he realized with growing unease that they had positioned themselves to not only defend Earth, but to cut off the Imperial fleet's retreat paths. The humans hadn't just prepared for invasion. They had prepared to win. For the first time in his long career, Admiral Karax found himself facing an enemy who had outmaneuvered the Empire before the first shot was fired. The question was no longer how quickly Earth would fall, but whether his fleet would survive the consequences of their own arrogance. The Drachnid Empire's retreat from Earth's solar system sent shockwaves through the galaxy. For the first time in recorded history, an Imperial fleet had withdrawn without firing a shot. But in the depths of the Pentagon's Quantum Communications Center, General Sarah Chen knew this was only the beginning. "Show me the latest intelligence," she commanded, and the holographic display sprang to life, revealing the movement of Imperial fleets across the galaxy. The Empire was mobilizing on a scale not seen in centuries. 20 years earlier, when humanity first detected the Empire's survey probes at the edge of the solar system, the world's leaders had made an unprecedented decision. Instead of announcing their discovery of alien life, they chose a path of absolute secrecy and unified preparation. Operation Looking Glass, as it was called, had transformed Earth's military and scientific development. On the surface, humanity continued its predictable path of development. Conventional rockets, basic space stations, and modest lunar bases. But beneath this carefully maintained facade, a technological revolution had quietly unfolded. Deep beneath the Mariana Trench, quantum computers decoded the Empire's transmissions. Hidden in the asteroid belt, automated factories produced advanced warships designed to exploit weaknesses in Imperial technology. The Mars colonies, dismissed by Imperial observers as struggling outposts, were in fact massive military installations buried kilometers beneath the red planet's surface. "The Empire's response matches our predictions," reported Dr. James Martinez, head of Tenopsychology. "Their society cannot tolerate the appearance of weakness. They'll be forced to return, and in far greater numbers." General Chen nodded. "That's exactly what we've been counting on. Show me Project Hydra status." The holographic display shifted, revealing a vast network of artificial wormholes hidden throughout the solar system. This was humanity's greatest secret, the ability to create stable micro-wormholes, allowing them to strike anywhere in the galaxy almost instantaneously. "The Empire's greatest weakness isn't military," Chen explained to the assembled staff. "It's their absolute certainty in their own superiority. They've spent so long being the most advanced civilization that they've stopped innovating. Their technology has barely advanced in the past 1,000 years." The display showed Imperial ship designs spanning centuries, all variations on the same basic principles. Their weapons, their defenses, their FTL drives, all established technology that hadn't fundamentally changed in generations. Meanwhile, Chen continued, "We've developed entirely new principles of physics. They're still using particle shields. We've developed phase shift technology that renders their weapons useless. They rely on hyperspace gates. We've mastered controlled wormhole creation." But humanity's greatest advantage wasn't technological, it was psychological. The Empire's rigid hierarchy and institutional arrogance made them predictable. Every response, every strategy, every tactic was bound by traditions and protocols established millennia ago. In orbital shipyards disguised as communication satellites, the latest generation of Earth's warships underwent final preparation. Unlike the massive, imposing Imperial vessels, human ships were compact, adaptable, and operated by hybrid crews of humans and AI. Each was equipped with technology that violated what the Empire considered immutable laws of physics. Deep in the Kuiper Belt, automated construction units were completing the last components of the Terminus array. a network of linked quantum computers capable of predicting Imperial fleet movements with unprecedented accuracy. The Empire's rigid protocols made their strategies predictable to the array's advanced algorithms. "They'll attack with overwhelming force," predicted Admiral Jackson, studying the deployment patterns. "Their doctrine demands nothing less after such a loss of face. But that's exactly what we've prepared for." The holographic display showed the positions of Earth's hidden fleet. Unlike the ships revealed during the first encounter, these vessels incorporated humanity's most advanced technologies: phase shift drives, quantum entangled communications, and weapons based on principles the Empire had never conceived of. "The Empire believes they know everything about us," Chen said, watching the simulation of possible battle scenarios. "They think they've seen our best technology, our strongest defenses. They have no idea that everything we showed them was obsolete by our standards." In labs across the solar system, scientists continued pushing the boundaries of possible. They had reversed engineered Imperial technology not to copy it, but to understand its limitations and exploit them. Every Imperial advancement of the past 1,000 years was analyzed, understood, and surpassed. But perhaps humanity's greatest achievement remained hidden in plain sight. The Internet, viewed by Imperial observers as a primitive information network, had evolved into something far more sophisticated. Quantum encrypted and operating on principles that made it invisible to Imperial sensors, it coordinated humanity's defense preparations with an efficiency that would have astonished their enemies. As General Chen reviewed the final preparations, she reflected on the irony of the situation. The Empire's overwhelming power had forced humanity to advance faster and more dramatically than any species in known history. Their threat had unified Earth in ways that might have taken centuries otherwise. "Send the final authorization," she ordered. "Activate all sleeper cells in Imperial space." Throughout the Empire's vast territory, seemingly ordinary civilian ships, medical vessels, trading craft, mining operations, received their activation codes. These ships, crewed by human agents who had spent years establishing cover identities, were in fact advanced reconnaissance units. Each was positioned to gather critical intelligence and, when the time came, to strike at vital Imperial infrastructure. The Empire was coming, bringing the full might of their military to bear. But humanity was ready. They had spent 20 years preparing for this moment, and they had no intention of merely surviving the coming storm. They intended to reshape the galaxy. The Imperial capital of Draknar Prime buzzed with activity as the largest fleet in galactic history prepared for departure. 10,000 warships, gathered from every corner of the Empire, assembled in high orbit. Their mission: to crush the upstart humans and reassert Imperial dominance over the galaxy. Supreme Commander Vexthor stood aboard his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, watching the fleet's final preparations. The humiliation of Admiral Karax's retreat had been answered with his execution, and now Vexthor would restore the Empire's honor with overwhelming force. He never saw the attack coming. In the space of 3 seconds, 37 quantum wormholes opened throughout the Imperial fleet's formation. Through each portal emerged a single human vessel, unremarkable in size, but bristling with technologies the Empire had never encountered. Before a single Imperial ship could raise its shields, the human vessels activated their phase shift weapons. The effect was devastating. The Empire's most powerful warships simply ceased to exist as the phase shift beams altered the quantum state of their molecular structures. No explosions, no debris fields, just empty space where proud Imperial vessels had been moments before. Status report. Vexthor bellowed as alarms blared throughout his flagship. But before his officers could respond, a new threat emerged. The seemingly primitive commercial satellites orbiting Draknar Prime revealed their true nature, transforming into weapon platforms that began systematically targeting the Empire's orbital defense network. In the Imperial Palace below, the High Council gathered in emergency session. Their meeting was interrupted by the sudden appearance of holographic projections, human fighters appearing in the council chamber itself through technology that bypassed every known security measure. Your empire has ruled through fear for too long, announced General Chen's hologram, standing in the center of the council chamber. Today that ends. We offered you peace. You chose war. Now you will understand why Earth has never bowed to tyrants. Across imperial space, humanity's carefully laid plans unfolded with precision. The civilian ships that had spent years establishing trade routes revealed themselves as advanced strike craft. Mining operations transformed into military bases. Medical stations became command centers. In a single coordinated strike, humanity attacked not just the Empire's military might, but the very infrastructure that supported it. The Terminus Array, now fully operational, predicted and countered every Imperial response before it could be implemented. When Imperial commanders attempted to execute standard combat protocols, they found their commands mysteriously rerouted or delayed. The quantum AI governing the array had learned to think like the Empire, and now used that knowledge to devastating effect. But humanity's most devastating weapon wasn't their advanced technology, it was information. Through the quantum encrypted networks they had secretly established throughout Imperial space, they began broadcasting the truth about the Empire's rule. Records of atrocities, evidence of corruption, proof of the High Council's lies, all transmitted simultaneously to every world under Imperial control. The Empire had maintained its power not just through military might, but through careful control of information. Now, that control was shattered. Centuries of carefully maintained propaganda crumbled in hours as the truth reached billions of beings across thousands of worlds. Vexthor watched in horror as his mighty fleet was systematically dismantled. The human ships moved with impossible precision, their tactics unlike anything recorded in the Empire's vast military archives. They struck from unexpected angles, used weapons that ignored Imperial defenses, and seemed to anticipate every counterattack before it began. "My lord," his tactical officer reported, voice trembling, "we're detecting similar attacks across all Imperial sectors. Our shipyards at Kelvar, the supply bases in the Centauri Reach, the quantum communications hub at Nexus Prime, all under simultaneous attack." The Supreme Commander finally understood the true scope of humanity's strategy. This wasn't just a military campaign. It was surgical strike aimed at the Empire's ability to make war. Every target was chosen to maximize the destruction of Imperial power while minimizing civilian casualties. In the skies above 1,000 worlds, Imperial citizens watched their invincible fleet being systematically dismantled by an enemy they had been told was primitive and weak. The myth of Imperial invincibility, maintained for centuries, was being destroyed not just militarily, but psychologically. As the battle reached its climax, General Chen's hologram addressed the High Council one final time. "Your empire ends today, but your people need not suffer. Surrender now, and we will ensure a peaceful transition of power to democratic governments on each of your worlds. Refuse, and we will dismantle every instrument of Imperial power until nothing remains of your dominion but history." The High Council, watching their mighty fleet reduced to scattered remnants in less than an hour, faced a choice they had never imagined possible. The empire that had stood for millennia was being systematically dismantled by a species they had dismissed as primitive barely a month ago. Operation Thunderclap, as humanity had dubbed it, would be remembered as the day the galaxy learned that technological superiority meant nothing without the wisdom to use it properly. The Empire had stagnated, relied on brute force and intimidation. Humanity had evolved, adapted, and most importantly, learned from history. The galaxy would never be the same. In the aftermath of Operation Thunderclap, while the Empire reeled from humanity's devastating strike, Earth's diplomatic corps launched an equally ambitious campaign. On thousands of worlds across the galaxy, beings who had lived under Imperial oppression for generations watched their overlords' power crumble. But freedom, after millennia of subjugation, was as terrifying as it was exhilarating. Ambassador Elena Santos stood before the Council of Resistance, a hastily assembled group of representatives from 24 formerly subjugated species. The meeting took place on Nexus Station, a neutral trading post that had once served as an imperial tax collection center. Now it served as neutral ground for a gathering that would reshape galactic society. Earth doesn't seek to replace the Empire, Santos declared to the assembled delegates. We propose something unprecedented in galactic history, a true coalition of equals, each species contributing its unique strengths to ensure no empire ever rises to dominate others again. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of translated discussions. The Xerex, silicon-based beings who had been forced to mind their own worlds for the Empire's benefit, clicked their crystalline appendages skeptically. The Meridians, a species of energy beings confined to containment suits, pulsed with uncertainty. The Quantum Collective, a hybrid species of organic and digital life, processed the proposal through millions of simultaneous calculations. Pretty words, rumbled Cuttle, the massive representative of the warrior Kronaki. But we've heard pretty words before. The Empire spoke of protection and guidance when they first came to our worlds. Why should we trust humans to be different? Santos activated a holographic display, showing footage from Earth's history, because we know what it means to fight against tyranny. These are our own battles against empires and dictators. We've faced conquest, genocide, and oppression. We've fought our own wars of liberation. We understand that freedom isn't given. It's earned, protected, and sometimes paid for in blood. The display shifted to show Earth's carefully orchestrated resistance against the Drachnid Empire. We spent 20 years preparing not just to defend ourselves, but to free every species under Imperial rule. We could have simply protected Earth. Instead, we chose to risk everything to break the Empire's power completely. "And what do you want in return?" asked Syra, the ethereal ambassador of the Meridians, her containment suit glowing with cautious interest. "Your commitment to a new galactic order," Santos replied. "One where every species has a voice, where technology and resources are shared for the benefit of all, where cultural diversity is celebrated rather than suppressed. But most importantly, we want your help in ensuring the Empire's fall is permanent." She revealed humanity's next phase of operations. The Empire still controls significant territory. They're wounded but not defeated. More importantly, the systems and structures they built over millennia remain in place. Dismantling them will require cooperation on an unprecedented scale. The Quantum Collective's representative, a shimmering matrix of light and data, spoke in perfectly synchronized multiple voices. "We have analyzed Earth's proposal. Their strategic approach against the Empire demonstrates both tactical brilliance and ethical consideration. Civilian casualties were minimized. Infrastructure vital to planetary survival was preserved. Their actions align with their stated principles." One by one, representatives began sharing their own species' stories of resistance against imperial rule. The Xerex had maintained secret archives of their pre-imperial culture. The Kronaki had preserved ancient martial traditions through coded ritual dances. The Meridians had developed their containment suit technology in hidden laboratories, preparing for eventual rebellion. Perhaps, Santos suggested, it's no coincidence that the Empire chose Earth as its next target. They sensed in humanity the same defiant spirit they tried to crush in all of you. But together, we can ensure they never succeed again. The coalition began to take shape over the following days. Each species brought unique contributions to the alliance. The Xerex's crystalline technology revolutionized energy storage. The Meridians' understanding of plasma physics enhanced weapons systems. The Quantum Collective's computational power amplified the effectiveness of the Terminus Array. But more importantly, they'd brought hope. Across the galaxy, billions of beings who had lived in fear now dared to imagine a different future. The Empire had maintained control not just through military might, but through cultural domination, convincing subjected species that resistance was futile, that their overlord's power was absolute and eternal. Now that illusion was shattered. The Coalition's fleet, Combining Earth's advanced technology with the unique capabilities of each allied species began systematic campaigns to liberate remaining imperial strongholds. But unlike the Empire, they didn't simply replace one form of control with another. On each freed world, the coalition established interim councils representing all local species and factions. They provided technological aid, medical assistance, and educational resources to help populations transition to self-governance. Earth's own history of decolonization, with all its successes and failures, proved invaluable in avoiding similar pitfalls on a galactic scale. Ambassador Santos watched as former enemies became allies, as ancient rivalries gave way to cooperation in the face of a common cause. The coalition was more than a military alliance. It was becoming a new form of galactic society, one built on mutual respect and shared determination to prevent the rise of future empires. The Empire had ruled through fear and division. The coalition would succeed through unity and hope. And as news of each liberation sparked uprisings on dozens more worlds, it became clear that the galaxy's future would be determined not by the will of a few powerful rulers, but by the collective strength of all its peoples. The Imperial Palace on Draknar Prime, once a symbol of absolute power, now served as the last bastion of a dying empire. What remained of the High Council huddled in reinforced bunkers deep beneath the surface, watching as their millennium of dominance crumbled around them. But even in defeat, the Empire's pride remained dangerous. Supreme Commander Vexthor, his once immaculate uniform now worn and stained, stood before the emergency session of the Council. "We still have the Omega Protocol," he declared, his voice echoing in the chamber. "If we cannot rule the galaxy, perhaps it deserves to burn." The Omega Protocol, the Empire's ultimate weapon. Thousands of quantum destabilization devices, secretly planted throughout the galaxy over centuries, each capable of triggering a chain reaction that could cause a star to go supernova. If activated, they would destroy not just Imperial worlds, but every inhabited system in the galaxy. But the Empire had not counted on the quantum collective's ability to detect the devices, nor on humanity's determination to prevent another civilization from facing atomic devastation. As Vexthor reached for the activation controls, a familiar hologram materialized in the chamber. "I wouldn't," General Chen's projection warned. "Your Omega devices were neutralized hours ago. Humanity learned the danger of doomsday weapons centuries ago. Did you really think we wouldn't look for them?" The chamber's doors dissolved as phase shift technology rendered them quantum neutral. Coalition forces, led by human special operations teams and supported by warriors from 24 species, poured into the room. The High Council, who had commanded the deaths of billions, surrendered without firing a shot. But victory brought its own challenges. Across the galaxy, freed worlds faced the daunting task of rebuilding societies that had been suppressed for generations. The coalition's success had created a power vacuum that threatened to spark new conflicts. In orbit above Draknar Prime, aboard the coalition flagship Democracy, representatives from over 100 species gathered to determine the galaxy's future. The ship's name was deliberately chosen, a reminder of the principles they fought to uphold. Ambassador Santos, now serving as Earth's representative to the newly formed Galactic Assembly, addressed the gathering. "The Empire maintained power by convincing us that we needed their guidance, that without their control, the galaxy would descend into chaos. Today, we proved them wrong." The Assembly's first act was to establish the Galactic Charter of Rights, a document guaranteeing fundamental freedoms to all sentient beings, regardless of species, origin, or form of consciousness. Its second was to create the Council of Guardians, a rotating body of representatives tasked with preventing the rise of future empires. But perhaps the most significant change came not from official declarations, but from the unprecedented cooperation between species. The Xerex's crystalline technology, combined with meridian plasma physics and human quantum mechanics, led to breakthroughs in clean energy production that transformed planetary economies. The quantum collective's computational power, integrated with human AI ethics protocols, created new forms of governance that were both efficient and transparent. Former imperial citizens, freed from generations of propaganda, began rediscovering their own cultural heritage. The empire had suppressed local traditions, languages, and beliefs, imposing their own versions of history. Now, archaeological teams from Earth helped worlds reconstruct their past, while coalition archivists worked to preserve the diverse stories of resistance that had sustained hope through centuries of oppression. The Terminus Array, once a weapon of war, was reproposed as the backbone of a new galactic communication network. It allowed instant communication between worlds, facilitating trade, cultural exchange, and scientific collaboration. The Empire had restricted information to maintain control. The Coalition used it to build understanding. On Earth, humanity watched as their victory transformed into something greater than military success. They had not simply defeated an empire. They had helped birth a new form of galactic civilization. The Coalition's principles, democracy, diversity, cooperation, spread not through force, but through example. A year after the Empire's fall, the first Galactic Cultural Exchange Festival was held on Nexus Station. Species that had once been forbidden to interact now shared art, music, literature, and ideas freely. Human classical music played alongside Kronaki war songs, while Xerex crystal sculptures caught the light of meridian energy dances. In the station's great observatory, General Chen stood with Ambassador Santos, watching ships from across the galaxy come and go freely through the quantum gates that had replaced imperial hyperspace lanes. "Did you ever imagine this when we first detected their probes 20 years ago?" Santos asked. Chen smiled, remembering the fear and determination of those early days. "We prepared for war, but we always hoped for something better. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our strategies. It's our ability to imagine a better future and work to make it real." Below them, in the station's diplomatic quarter, the next generation of leaders was already emerging. Young humans worked alongside alien counterparts, learning from each other's experiences and perspectives. The Empire had ruled through isolation and fear. The new galaxy would thrive through connection and hope. The Empire's fall marked not just the end of an era of oppression, but the beginning of a new chapter in galactic history. Humanity had proven that resistance to tyranny was not just possible but necessary. More importantly, they had shown that victory meant not just defeating an enemy, but building something better in its place. The stars, once symbols of imperial power, now represented something different: possibility, discovery, and the promise that no species would ever again bow before an empire's throne.